Acts 2 that was read a little bit earlier, it says, the baptized devoted themselves to the apostles, teaching and fellowship and the breaking of bread. And awe came upon everyone, because many wonders and signs were being done by the apostles. It seems pretty benign in a way. It says awesome things were being done. Okay, let's go on. Let's get on with things here. But you have to take this into context, okay? Acts chapter 2, okay? What happened immediately after Jesus died and the disciples found themselves in a room? They locked the doors, and in fear of the Jews. Nothing good was happening because they had locked themselves behind closed doors because of fear. And then Jesus made the appearance to them, and he said, peace be with you. Do not be afraid. He appeared to Thomas, and he said, peace be with you. Do not be afraid. These two stories are powerful metaphors for us. We cannot do the things that we are called to do if we lock ourselves behind closed doors and if we live in fear. I'm rereading a book. I have so many self-help books, I can't remember what's in all of them, so I'm starting to, and I think as you get older, that gets even worse, doesn't it? You can't remember if you read the book. I got a Kindle about 6 months ago, and I downloaded a book, and about 2 chapters into the book, I said, I think I read this before. And I deleted it, and I got a note from Goodreads or wherever I bought it, and they said, we're refunding your money. Because obviously you forgot you had read this book already. Anyway, I'm rereading this book, and the first chapter talks about fear. And he says how ironic it is that probably the majority of the people in the world live in fear because of a repressive government. Because if they speak out and say something at all controversial, they could be arrested. Look what's happening in Russia. Anybody who criticizes the government can end up dead or a lifetime imprisoned. And so people are taught to keep their mouths shut. But it's ironic and sad that we who live in a free country are still afraid. We are afraid to speak our minds. We are afraid to do the things that we are called to do. The great things that God has called us to do because of fear. We're afraid of failure. And the biggest thing is we're afraid of what other people might think about us, right? We're so worried about people judging us or making comments about us or not accepting what it is we're saying or doing in our lives. It starts from our childhood. Parents. We want to please our parents, and we're afraid of doing things that they might not agree with. So we live a lifetime of fear, never stepping out across those boundaries and living our life to the fullest. Yesterday on the way back from Saskatoon, I recalled my early years of ministry. Last week marked 45 years of ministry for myself. That's awesome. That's awesome. 45 years, I think that's good. And in 45 more, I'm retiring. Okay? I heard about this pastor, German pastor in Winnipeg. I'm getting off track here, but that's all right. Okay. Who was in his 90s, and he was preaching Easter Sunday sermon, and he died in the pulpit. Okay? I think it might create some interest and enthusiasm. I don't know. Maybe not, but whatever. How did I get onto that now? At this age, you should never let your mind wander. But anyway, I recall when I was first pastor, I would spend 20 to 25 hours on my sermon. I would write every word out by hand, and I would then read the words out that I had written. But 20 to 25 hours, most of it was in anguish, wondering how people were going to take what it was I was going to say. Were they going to be critical? Were they going to be negative? Was somebody going to get up in the middle of the sermon and walk out? That's why we've locked all the doors here. And then I realized, you're stifling yourself, right? You have so much to say. God has given you a message to say, and you're stifling that message because of one thing: fear of what other people might think about you. That's the fear that we have to get over. And then we can start doing the great things that God has called us to do. The disciples were doing things like healing people. Healing people. They were speaking. People who have never done public speaking spilled out into the streets, and they spoke in a language that they had never spoken before. They were totally brave and courageous because they knew that God was with them and it was going to be okay. What is God calling you to do that you have not yet been able to do? I am very grateful that I'm doing my pastoring in Canada. I often wonder what it would be like standing in front of a congregation where half the people shared a completely opposite view of what I did in theology and in politics. And every week I'd be getting emails and phone calls criticizing. And when that happens, people go back even further into the closet and close the doors of safety, not wanting to go out there and share the message that they have. But God has given all of us gifts. Gifts to help change the world. Was that the name of your project? To help change the world? Okay. This is what we have to do. Okay? We have to get kids motivated, young people motivated, with the idea that they can change the world. But fear can't stand in your way of changing the world. I believe at any given moment there's thousands of young people or people who have a gift that can help to change the world. Bring people together and really let there be peace on earth. And these voices are stifled. The voices are silent. And we continue to live in fear, unable to take that step out of our safety boundaries and live the life that God has called us to. Do not be afraid. I am with you. That's the promise. Those are the words. That's how we get to spill out into the street and use our gifts. Amen. not be afraid. Your time. Go in peace and serve the Lord.